Hey, you're listening to Stop the Scroll, a social media marketing podcast, and I'm your host, Heidi Schmidt. I'm a social media strategist and agency owner with over 15 years of marketing experiences helping businesses grow online. We'll be diving into what you need to know so that you can show up confidently online without the overwhelm. Get your notebook ready to jot down some amazing marketing gems, and let's dive into it. Welcome back to another episode of Stop the Scroll. I'm your host, Heidi Schmidt, and today is kind of a little special episode. So this week, I am celebrating 5 years of doing this whole Heidi Schmidt Creative thing. 5 flipping years. Who knew? Like, back in 2008. So I'm going to tell you a little story about freelancing and some lessons I've learned and what I would have done differently when I first started. So, little story time. So, I've always said that I've been in marketing for a really long time. You know, I studied political science in college, but I was a content creator before it was really called content creation. I had a blog on LiveJournal. I loved writing. I was the first of my friends on Facebook, kind of documenting. And for the record, all of those late nights, not a lot of them actually made it to Facebook because we didn't quite have the age of digital cameras that we have now. So a lot of those photos, even though literally I would take disposable cameras, and when I got them developed, I would get CDs. Some of them are online, but a lot of them are just hard copies in my basement in photo albums. Probably for the best, let's be honest. Probably for the best. But anyhow, I have been creating content since before content creation was really a thing, as I've said. My career started, I thought I wanted to work on Capitol Hill. I wanted to be in politics. I wanted to make a difference because part of my values stem from knowing that government is there to make people's lives better. That's part of my values, part of my political beliefs. I'm going to leave that there. So after college, I moved to DC, did not get a job on the Hill, but worked for a couple of nonprofits. And a lot of what I started doing with my career was I was a communications and research assistant for a nonprofit. And I managed the website, I managed the newsletter, I helped with events, I helped with, this was the early days of businesses being on Facebook. So I helped with Facebook. And that really kind of instigated, I wanted to do more in marketing. Because of my blog, I had some really unique opportunities back in the day. And I was kind of getting the inkling that I wanted to do something that was marketing content-based. When the Great Recession happened in 2008, 2009, that impacted the nonprofit space, and my job was eliminated. So, as is probably a common story from around that time period, if you were kind of entry-level-ish. So I tried to freelance. My husband and I were about to get married. Literally, I lost my job in March, and we got married in September. So I had a part-time job at a gym. I've always kind of had more than one job. It's really weird to think about that. But I had a part-time job at a gym, and I tried to freelance. I was like, you know what? I've been doing this blogging thing. I have this experience. It kind of worked, but it kind of didn't. I was not a successful freelancer back in the late 2000s. Back in the early 2010s, I was not a good freelancer. I am the first to admit that. In retrospect, it's probably because I have undiagnosed ADHD. But as perimenopause kind of makes me more aware of those tendencies, I have certainly learned some coping mechanisms and better time management and all of the things that I should have had back then. But still, even 5 years ago when I started freelancing, and I tell the story that my first client came to me because of a LinkedIn post. And now, granted, when I put up that LinkedIn post, I had another probably 10 years of marketing experience under my belt from when I first tried to freelance back in 2009. So today, I wanted to share just some lessons that I've learned over the past 5 years that I wish I had known when I first started my business. And hopefully this will be helpful. Whatever stage of business you're at, there is always opportunities for growth. There's always opportunities for us to be better CEOs of our business and better leaders. So one of the first lessons, that was probably one of the hardest lessons for me to learn, is pricing yourself correctly. And it's funny because the day that I'm recording this, I was just at a collective breakfast, And one of my fellow leading lady ambassadors was talking about CEO pricing, and she has a whole equation to it. I am going to link to Gayla in the comments. She's a bookkeeper and she's brilliant. And she talked a lot about how much you want to make in the year, how much you want to work, and that's the value of your time. And then obviously you have like your labor cost of goods, if that's part of your business, and your time. And obviously like operational costs and everything. Since I've met Gayla about a year ago, it has helped me so much in pricing myself accordingly. Like one of my first clients literally paid me $500 a month. And this is probably a multi-million-dollar company. Even when you're just starting out, and I say this to my fellow marketers, do not undervalue your work and your experience. Now, obviously, if you're like making the transition into marketing and maybe you don't have a lot of experience, price yourself based on that, but like increase your prices as you go. And I love working with companies who have a budget and who value social media. There are some of my clients who still, I've definitely discounted my services for them. But with that, they don't get the same level of service as not the same level of service. They don't get the same package as my higher paying clients. Like maybe they only get one social media network. They don't get engagement, which I don't really love to offer anyhow. They don't get email marketing, these things. And so I've learned to price my packages accordingly. So I was a part of a group probably up until last year, and it was very much about teaching, marketing assistants, marketing professionals who are freelancers to charge for your value, not for your hours. And I love the retainer model for that perspective. And I will say, like, my content creators, I work with most of them through Upwork and they're amazing. I pay them hourly. However, if I could get them to just do a retainer, because then I would know consistency for budgeting purposes. But you have to learn to price with future growth in mind. Like, how much are you reinvesting in your business? Taxes. Holy shit, price for taxes. Taxes are stupid. I hate taxes. I hate them. And also think about the profit that you want. And for me, my profit is how much I pay myself. So I have a vision of how much I want to pay myself. So make sure, and this is something that I wish I had considered when I first started. And now I was lucky enough when I first started freelancing that I had the CARES Act to kind of bridge over my income from when I lost my job to when I finally had a full flipping client load to basically tide my family over. Because even though I had that one client, there were a lot of startup costs to starting up. Like, what editing softwares do I need? I needed a new laptop. Literally, my laptop died probably 3 months into freelancing. My laptop died, so I had to get that fixed. I used Adobe because I was doing more video editing. And I learned since, I love editing reels. Let me say this. This is a little bit of a tangent. But I don't love editing long form videos. And I've done it before because I knew how to do it because of one of my previous jobs I learned. But I'm not a professional video editor. You want professionally edited videos, you pay for professionally edited videos. And I have some recommendations. So just saying. But reels, YouTube shorts, all that kind of fun stuff, I'm your girl. I love editing reels. Another lesson I learned very early is have your systems in place, and when I say systems, I think what are your systems in place? What's your onboarding system and what's your offboarding system? And I'm going to be quite frank, I still have a really crappy offboarding system. I try to do better, but it is what it is. I get better every time. Okay. I get better every time, but systems, they're not a luxury in business. They are the foundation for being able to scale our businesses. When you bring a VA on, say, what are your SOPs? Do you have standard operating procedures? My business coach last year, I was SOPs, what? And she worked with me to basically, I still have a few that I have to create, but I feel so much more confident that if someone needed to step into some of the stuff that I do, for certain clients, I have short videos that say, this is how to do an email for this client. This is what this client gets. This is where to find all of their stuff. Every client kind of has their own SOP. Thank you, Notion. Notion is going to be linked in the show notes because that is where, there's lots of different debates about like which productivity manager, project manager is the best platform out there. Notion still feels a little clunky to me, but for a database of my business, it is spot on, 100%, highly recommend. So that's linked in the show notes. No, I don't have templates. But I'm happy if you want to set up a strategy session and chat about marketing systems and, hey, how do I record all of this to pass on to my VA? I am happy to do that for you. Anyhow, next, speaking of systems, understanding your funnel and your lead generation. Like, what are you doing to market yourself? And when people come into your system, like what happens? How do they come into your system? How do they come into your world? How are you attracting new leads? How are you tracking those leads? Thank you, Lauren Nadra, for telling me like, oh my God, you need to track your leads and showing me the magic of that. Like, I kind of knew because I've worked with sales teams before, but I wasn't doing it for myself consistently. I have been so caught up over the past 5 years in client work that like last year I had some client turnover and, the economy, all of the things, totally fine, but I was not actively generating leads regularly. So one, have a funnel for how people, when someone comes to your website, they convert, like what happens next? Do you have a lead magnet? What is your process for following up with leads? Do you follow up with leads? Like all of these things, having your funnel and having a process for your lead generation is so, so important because clients are going to come and go 100%. We know that, especially in service-based industries, clients are going to come and go. That is just the nature of the business. But when they go, how do you replace that income? And if you're not generating leads, then you're not replacing that income. So how are people finding you? So how are you putting yourself out there? Is it just social media? Do you have a newsletter? Do you do blogging? Are you networking? All of those things. How are you building trust? So one, that's where your email newsletter is spot on. And how are you converting them? Like what kind of opportunities are you giving to convert them? Are you sending out conversion emails like, hey, if I know that I want to schedule a couple of strategy sessions, I should probably send some emails marketing my strategy sessions, right? I learned last year that low ticket offers are a good piece of a long-term lead generation strategies. So like workshops. Workshops are a great low ticket offer for me to get people into my orbit, to get them on my newsletter. Possibly they're going to convert on a strategy session after a workshop. I tend to give discounts to people who come to my workshops, but I know that because I've started tracking it. You can't fix or optimize what you don't track. You have to know what's working as far as your lead generation, like what's actually generating your leads, because that's what you should be investing more time in. Like, oh, I get a lot of leads when I go to networking events. Okay, well, maybe go to more networking events. And I had said earlier this year that I was planning on going to at least one networking event a month, and I have done a solid job at that. And I was looking at, I now track my leads through Trello. I should track them in Notion, but like they're tracked in Trello. And I have a solid pipeline now of potential clients that I can nurture, that I can maybe convert over to project work, all of that kind of stuff. Like that is something that I did not have when I first started. Like it was just kind of like, okay, who wants to work with me? Just kind of like, I just need to make money. It was more like a fight or flight awareness mode when I started my business. Like I just need to grow because I need to make money because I need to provide for my family. Because, my husband, he makes decent money, but like we can't live on just his income. So when the CARES Act unemployment funding ran out, it was like, all right, time to get into gear. And for a while, like I had a contract client that was part-time and I could work as many hours as I wanted for them. So that was really helpful. Then as I brought on more retainer clients, it was kind of like, okay, I was at a point a couple of years ago where I kind of moved on from them because like I just didn't have time for hourly work anymore. And that was when I started growing my team, when I brought new clients on. And it was a really interesting time of scaling. And I still, there are probably more lessons that I can look at from that period of time then. But yeah, speaking of scaling, know when to invest in your own business. It's a growth strategy to invest in business. Like I invested in a business coach. I've invested in a couple of business coaches. One who was really integral to helping me make the switch from freelancer into agency model. And then another one, when I joined the collective last year in Annapolis, I started working with Alisanne Loftus, and she is an amazing business coach who really helped me implement the systems that I needed to scale and the mindset that I needed to be a leader in my business. Like, we're not just in our business just to like do the things, right? Like, we love doing the things, but we want to grow. We want to make money. So it was really working with her, taking a couple of her masterclasses last year and being a part of the collective, where I just learned so much about the systems that I needed in place to scale, the mindset that I needed. If you have not worked with a business coach, I highly, highly recommend it. Yeah, like, just invest in yourself and invest in your business. It is 100% worth it, especially if you're like, if your mindset is holding you back, if you're like, oh, I can't do this, or imposter syndrome, or whatever it is that's holding you back from like making that next leap, like, just don't let a lack of confidence hold you back from accomplishing your goals. Like, if your goals are to make 7 figures, like, what do you need to do to get there? Do you need to get out of your own way? Do you need to say, hey, like, I am fully capable, and yes, I can charge, $3,000 for a retainer. For the record, I do not charge $3,000 for a retainer. I wish I could. I probably could, but I'm not there yet. Again, it's a mindset thing, but also I don't feel like my systems are quite in place to scale to a $3,000 a month model. That's fine. Knowing when to scale. So it must have been like 2.5 years ago when I first brought on my first ever like outsourced content creator. And I've been working with her ever since, and she is amazing. Again, it would have been helpful to have some better systems in place when I first brought her on, but now like they're for the most part in place, and they're really helpful. But one of the things that I learned from Gayla is, we also, in addition to doing work in our business, like working in our business on client work, like we also have to build in that time to work on our business. And many of us just don't. So for a while, part of why I wanted to freelance was I wanted that flexible schedule. My son, for those of you who don't know, he is neurodiverse. He has mild autism and some learning disabilities. And I love my little man. He requires a little more hands-on help for homework, that kind of stuff. He's involved in lots of activities, from scouts to soccer. Like, we're looking at tutoring, all that kind of fun stuff. And that takes time. And I want to be present for that. And you have to know when you've hit your limits and when you need to scale. And I have hit that limit, that burnout limit. Like, I'm doing too much. I'm trying to fit in all of the things, and there are only so many hours in the day, and balls get dropped. And if you're trying not to drop all of the balls, and we know that there are glass balls and there are plastic balls. The glass balls cannot be dropped. The plastic balls, they're going to bounce and it's going to suck, and you might have to gather them again. But when you work yourself so much on client work and you neglect your own self, and I'm not just talking about neglecting the business and growing the business, but also like your family, your work-life balance, what are your boundaries that you have? I've been really terrible with boundaries. I'm not going to lie. I work late too often, but I take the flexibility, but and it's part of just how my brain works. And I know this because I tend to be able to focus later in the evening. That's just when my brain gets creative. So it's a thing. So it's time to scale when you're maxed out, when you're working too much, but you still want to grow. And part of that comes to having those processes and knowing when to outsource your work or knowing when to bring on a new team member. And for me, and this is my last thing, it is also having more than one service that you offer. It's funny because I had a former boss who used to say like he always wanted like 3 revenue sources, at least 3. And I'm sure there's like business strategy stuff that they teach in like business school about that. But for me, I learned probably over the last year, like I want to have a diverse revenue streams. So that's when I started offering consulting and strategy sessions. And that is why I'm working on /a masterclass /membership to help business owners with accountability and coaching them on marketing, kind of a lower price point, especially now in these unprecedented times that we're living through again. with a interesting economic times, people tend to not invest in marketing. Even though that's one thing that you really should be investing in is marketing your business, they tend to pull back on the marketing investments. So that's not a good time for me to just be a retainer and done for you type business owner, right? So have diverse revenue streams. Like what happens if you lose half of your business? I will tell you, over the past 6 months, I've probably lost about almost $7,500 of recurring revenue each month. I've replaced some of it, but certainly not all of it. And that is when I learned, like, I need other revenue streams. For the record, I'm still a 6-figure agency owner. Just FYI, in case anyone doubts that. Still a 6-figure agency owner. Anyhow, so those are the biggest lessons that I've learned in the past 5 years of having my business, having the systems, knowing when to scale, diversifying revenue streams, investing in yourself, your business, not neglecting your own marketing. Like, I don't know if I really touched on this, but like for a long time, up until probably like last year, I was really neglecting my own marketing. Yeah, I would post on social media occasionally, but like I wasn't really marketing myself, doing other things to bring in those leads. And then, obviously when clients turned over, there was no leads to be had. So don't neglect your own marketing and understand your funnel and your lead generation, especially the sources where your leads are coming from. And finally, like, have those boundaries, have your work-life balance, know when to scale, know when to bring in help, whether it's a VA, whether it's outsourcing something, like whatever it is, know when to do it. When you're maxed out on your time, your CEO time, your client time, all that kind of fun stuff. Like, there is a time when you're just gonna like dusting off your hands. I'm done. I can't take on any more work. Something's got to give here. So those are my lessons. If you're interested in working with me, we are taking consulting clients for May. We have some strategy sessions open. And if you're interested in our marketing masterclass membership, whatever I'm envisioning, it's probably going to launch in June. I was hoping for May, but it's probably going to be June. Get on my email list and it'll be linked in the show notes. And when it launches, I'll probably do a beta test, so it'll probably be a little less expensive, but it's going to be something along the lines of weekly kind of pseudo coaching calls, group coaching calls with me, possibly some templates, some caption templates each month, maybe some email templates. I don't know. I gotta think this through. And if you get in early, and maybe there might be some sort of sign up bonus in the form of a free strategy session. So that'll be linked in the show notes if you're interested. And as always, if you love what you hear, thank you for being here for the past, this is episode 54, I think. Thank you for listening, for supporting me, for helping my dreams happen. I had always wanted to work for myself. I was tired of working for businesses who were like, here's 10 days of PTO. That's generous. Like, I was tired of working for business owners who were making all the money. And I, like, my salary literally for like 5 years did not grow. In fact, I probably lost money because of inflation. So for about 5 years of my career, my salary did not grow, even though I had multiple different jobs. So thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting my dreams of being able to provide for my family, for being able to do what I do what I love doing. I love helping businesses market themselves and grow and accomplish their goals. And thank you for letting me, for supporting this little dream of mine and working for myself and being my own boss lady, because it's a flexibility that other entrepreneurs know that yes, there's certainly a lot of work, but if I can take off to pick my child up from school every day, which round trip literally takes about 40 minutes, that is worth all of the money in the world that I get to do that, and that I get to be home when he's home and support him in all of his endeavors. So thank you for listening. Please leave a review if you love the podcast. Make sure you subscribe, share it with your friends. And as always, connect with me on Instagram at Heidi Schmidt Creative. I would love to hear your thoughts and what you've loved, or if there's anything that you want to hear about on the podcast as we go into year 2. Until next time, go forth, create amazing content that stops the scroll.